The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 18, Segment 3, Handwriting.
Welcome back. This is Segment 3, Handwriting. When I say handwriting, I'm referring to Lee Harvey Oswald's handwriting on his rifle order to Kleins, on the envelope for the order sent to Kleins, and on the postal money order for the money sent to Kleins for the rifle. The yes, no, maybe so about that is, from day one, the FBI has reported that their handwriting experts determined that the handwriting on those items was Lee Harvey Oswald's. And it's always bothered me as to whether it actually was Lee Harvey Oswald's handwriting. So, what I did is I sent to handwriting experts over 20 pieces of Lee Harvey Oswald's handwriting, covering about the 6 years before his death, to determine what their analysis was of that handwriting, comparing it to the envelope, the order, and the postal money order sent to Kleins for the rifle. Here's an example of Oswald's handwriting when he was 16 years of age, and another one when he was trying to get his less than honorable discharge from the Marines changed back to honorable, a handwritten letter to John Connally, who at the time was the Secretary of the Navy. From those letters containing Oswald's handwriting and others, the handwriting experts were on opposite sides of the spectrum. One believed that the order and envelope to Kleins and the U.S. postal money order to Kleins was Oswald's handwriting because it matched certain characteristics. Another person felt that it was the exact opposite, and there were certain letters and traits that were not shown and were not exhibited on those orders. Of great interest is if we step back and look, the time that the rifle was ordered from Kleins, no one, Lee Harvey Oswald, nor anyone else in the world, knew that John F. Kennedy was going to be traveling to Dallas, Texas in November of 1963. So the purchase of the Kleins rifle, whether it was by Oswald or some imposter, just like the imposter who existed in Mexico City and who our government didn't want to tell us about until 35 years later, no one knew that Kennedy would be traveling to Dallas, Texas at that time. But interestingly enough, right around the time of the postal order, if you can recall back, we talked about El Paso, Texas. Kennedy, John Connally, and Lyndon Baines Johnson all met in early June in El Paso, Texas. And as part of that meeting, they actually talked about setting up a later trip for Kennedy to the Dallas region and other parts of Texas in the fall of 1963. What we are left with is two experts with opposing views as to whether the Kleins order involved Lee Harvey Oswald's handwriting or whether it was an imposter's handwriting. With that up in the air, that may leave it questionable, but we can go a step further. Let's assume the handwriting on those documents was Lee Harvey Oswald's. That means he was involved with some type of conspiracy, which would make perfect sense considering when he was arrested, he was asking for a lawyer who handled and represented defendants who were charged with conspiracies against the United States government. So Oswald may have been involved in some type of conspiracy, assuming that was his handwriting. If it wasn't his handwriting and it was somebody else's, that somebody else or group was involved in a conspiracy in which to frame Lee Harvey Oswald, which is consistent with what he said when he was arrested and when he was being transferred at various times. He was making the claim that he was a patsy. And that would be consistent with a falsified purchase order making Lee Harvey Oswald a patsy. With that said, hope to see you in the next segment.